Hey everybody, my name is Hector Alexander Merced, and for those of you who don't know who I am, I've spent the last 10 plus years sort of in the training space, basically training people for different things, doing online training, doing in-person training, mostly in sort of the financial side. But I've also done a lot of marketing work and marketing training. I've also done a lot of political work and political training. Now I'm going into kind of doing a career shift and going into programming. And one thing I've learned in life is that the best way to learn something is to teach it. So as I learn programming, I'm going to teach it to you guys as well. Um, because it's a great way for me to learn, a great way for you to learn. Because having sort of someone who's learning with you allows the person to not take for granted what you don't know. That's what always happens with a lot of sort of long-time teachers or long-time instructors. And that's what sort of makes the difference between a great teacher and someone who's just telling you stuff. Being able to not take for granted what you don't know. Because as you learn more and more and more, you forget that there was things that you didn't know a long time ago. And you forget to kind of mention it to the people you're teaching. So that's sort of the reason why I'm doing this. Now, I want to be doing this for the programming language Python through this series of videos. And then once I'm done with that, I plan on doing other programming topics such as C# and whatnot. But of course, this takes time, this takes effort, and the more ability I am to dedicate time, the more of these videos and the quicker I can get these videos out. So if you can, it would be very appreciated if you were to support my efforts. And there's different ways you can. So if you were to go to donate.alexmerced.com or donate.whoisalexmerced.com, either one would work. Okay, you'll go to my donation page. And there's a couple, you can either go to my affiliate offers where you can buy something you need, like hosting through Bluehost, or get a free audiobook from Audible, or just go shopping on Amazon, and that would help support my efforts. Okay? You can make a donation. Either you can become a monthly Patreon supporter, which I will, there's a special Facebook group you can join to become a Patreon supporter, and it does kind of help. It helps me set aside the time to be able to dedicate to this, because I know how much time I can budget if I know there's a certain amount of money coming in every month. You can also do a monthly crypto donation through Bitbacker, a one-time PayPal donation, and if you really are into the cryptocurrency, there's also the different cryptocurrency addresses for which you can send me cryptocurrency. So if you enjoy this series of videos, do consider becoming a supporter by going to donate.alexmerced.com. Now, on to our featured programming. We're going to be talking about Python. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is download the newest version of Python. So you're going to go to python.org and go download the latest release and install it on your computer. Now what Python is a programming language. And we're going to keep it real simple. A programming language just basically tells a computer to do things. Now programming language, the computer doesn't understand. We understand it, but the computer doesn't. The computer only understands what's called machine language. So most modern day programming languages are either compiled or interpreted, which means that you either have a software called the compiler that takes all the code we're going to make and turns it into an executable file that's already in machine code that the machine knows how to read. Or it can be interpreted, which means there's a separate piece of software called an interpreter that takes the code and turns it to machine language on the fly. So it does it as you run it. Either way, what we're doing is we're creating instructions, and then the interpreter or the compiler is turning it into machine code so the computer can read the instructions. And the reason why you do that, why you have that extra step, is because it's much easier to program in something like Python or C#, where the languages, the terms are much more closer to English than to program in machine code, where it's a bunch of zeros and ones and zeros and ones and 1 0, 0 0 0 1. That can get fairly difficult very quickly. While there are people who can do that, and it's not a bad skill to have, it's not a necessary difficulty in today's software development world. Especially when we're solving more and more complicated problems, we want to focus on solving the problem, not on making the actual process of creating the solution harder for ourselves. So thus, programming languages are created. So download Python, install it. Now once you install Python, you will get this, what's called the Python shell. Okay, let me actually clear it out. Oh, I want to create a new file. Yeah, we'll come back to that. shell. Cool. Okay. Okay, but the shell is basically it's interpreting code on the fly. So for example, if I wanted to create a variable, say a equals 5, what I'm doing is I'm telling the Python shell to say, I'm going to create a variable called a, and inside the equals symbol, and understanding what all these different characters and how we use them are is called syntax. Syntax is very important because if you have bad syntax, you'll end up, the code won't work. And then if you're doing large amounts of code, you're going to be spending a long time debugging. So you want to make sure you get your syntax fine. Every programming language has slightly different syntax, like you use semicolons, you use colons, you use commas. What is the way of creating a variable? All these things are different from different programming languages, so you want to get the syntax right. And when I create a variable in Python, I don't actually have to explicitly say what kind of variable it is. It does matter, though. You need to know what the different types of variables are. So when I say a equals 5, what I'm saying is that 5 is a whole number. So it's going to assume that I'm trying to create an integer variable. An integer just means basically a whole number. So a equals 5, if I hit that, there's nothing. You don't see anything right now because all I did is put 5 inside of a. So that's what the equal sign means. It means put the thing on the right inside the variable on the left. It doesn't mean what you traditionally think what equals is. It's more a sign left or a sign right to the left. So now if I just type in a, it's going to tell me what a is. So inside a, there's 5. Okay. Now if I wanted to change a, I could do a equals 6. Now if I type in and check in what's inside of a again, 6. Okay. Now if I created another variable, so I create another integer called 6, or b equals 6, so inside of b is 6, I can now do a plus b, I'm going to get 12, because 6 plus 6 is 12. But now I cannot bring back 12, because 12 wasn't stored anywhere. So what if I want to have that 12 to use later? I could make it another variable. So I'd say c equals a plus b. Okay, now if I type in c is 12. Okay. So again, the reason why you have variables is because they act as cubbyholes for information. So integer is a whole number. Now, a float variable would be one that has a decimal. So if I were to do d equals 5.5, okay, I type in d 5.5. Problem is, it's a different type of variable. So generally, you shouldn't be able to actually add or subtract different types of variables. So let's test this out. Let's see what happens if I do. Let's say BDE equals A, actually with C plus P. That worked. Probably automatically corrected it into a float variable. So let's see what happens if I type in what is the result of E. So it makes it a float variable, which means it has a decimal number. Now another type of variable is where I put in letters. Okay. So A, B, C, D, E, F. This is called the string. So to do a string, I put in a parentheses or I put in a quotation mark, and I will type in hi or hello world. Okay, now F should equal hello world. So if I type in F, hello world. Now, let's see if I can add my string to my int. So if I were to take E, well, actually we'll take the float of E, and then add, we'll say EFG equals E plus F. And see, it gives me an error, because see, E was a float. So when we added the integer to a float, it just created a float number. The interpreter was smart enough to be like, okay, well, this is going to equal a float number, so we're going to make E a float. Well, F was letters, so it's a string, and they're two different variables, and there's no way for the interpreter to kind of make that work. So it's like, nope. Okay? So just to give you an idea of variables. Now, what if I wanted to create a program out of this? I would go to File, New File, and whenever you do code, so when you're creating a code, so we're going to sit there and say, hey, this is save as my first code. You're going to want to make sure you put comments. What you do is you just put a number sign, and anything that shows up after that is a comment. It doesn't get treated as code. It doesn't run. But the reason why you want good comments, good documentation throughout the code is because other people might work on the code. And if they don't know what's going on, then it's going to be hard for them to work on it. So you want to make sure that other people can kind of follow what you were doing. So when you're doing code, not only do you want good comments, but you want variable names that are tell me what the variable is. And you want to make sure you write the code in a way that's easy to read, not just crunch it all up together. So these are just good practicing practices. So here I'm going to say, hey, we're going to make our first program. We'll print hello world. Okay, and there's two ways we can do this. Okay, I could use the built-in Python function print. So the way that would work is I would type in print, and then in parentheses I'm going to put what I want to print. So it would be print hello world for the first time. Okay. Now, in other languages, usually you have to put something at the end of a line of code. Python, you do not. I can just go to the next line, and I'm done with that. But what if I wanted to print a string variable that had hello world inside of it? So what I'll do is first I'll create the variable. So we'll say call the variable world, and inside world will be hello world the second time. And then I can just print the variable. So print world, and there we go. So let's see if this works. Okay. So I'll hit run module. Okay, and that'll, so first must be saved, so we're going to save it. Okay, good. So now we'll go all the way down here to the bottom. We'll see, first it printed out hello world the first time because we just told it to print that. And the second time it printed the contents of the variable world, which was hello world the second time. So it followed our instructions. Okay, now it doesn't sound like you're doing anything crazy yet, but trust me, as we start learning more and more functions and commands like print, we start learning more things that we can tell Python to do, and start learning how to really effectively use those variables. We're going to be doing some good stuff. But again, to keep it simple, to recap what we've learned, one, we got to install Python in order to have the software so we can actually play around with it. But when I create a variable, okay, a equals 5, it's going to say, hey, the equal sign is going to assign, so it's going to say 5 should be in this cubbyhole of A. Now, since I don't declare what type of variable it is in Python, it's going to automatically assume based on what I have on the other side. So if I just put the number 5, it's going to assume integer. Now, if it's a decimal number, it's going to assume a float variable. And if I put something within quotation marks, double or single quotation marks, it's going to assume it's a string variable. There are other types of variables that we'll discuss as we go on, but these are sort of the first main types of variables, and it's important to kind of keep track of how to create these variables and how to play with them, etc. And we'll talk more about that later on. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys very much.